Hi, this is Jeff with Game-Refraction. I'm here at the first annual Red Deer Expo. I'm here with legendary artist Mike Sass. So I've read you were pretty much one of the very first artists for BioWare.
Yes, that's correct. When I graduated from college, the Alberta College of Art and Design in Calgary in 1995, I had a couple friends that were doing some artwork for some guys who were starting up their very first game in Calgary. And my friends were in third year, so they had to go back to their fourth year, and they introduced me to them. So I started working on a game called Shattered Steel in Calgary, and we eventually moved up to Edmonton and got amalgamated into BioWare as it was founding, and finished the game up there, and then after that created the first Baldur's Gate game, and on from there, and I was there for 12 years. So I was essentially BioWare's first artist, and worked there until 2008, and then I left and have been freelancing since for Blizzard and Wizards of the Coast primarily.
Nice. So, like, I was reading that you kind of transitioned into a lot of like oil painting and oil work.
Correct. Yeah. So I didn't even learn the computer until I started into my job at a game company. College in the 90s was sort of pre-computer teaching time, so I was never really into games and into computers. But I was into fantasy and comics and traditional art. So eventually, as I progressed in my illustration career, I started to get back into painting, and I took a bunch of workshops in different places around the world, and I really studied like traditional old masters painting. And eventually, when I left BioWare and had the ability to work on my own and not in a cubicle, at a company, then I took the leap to transitioning to doing the same work but in oil paints. So about half of what I do now is in oil paints. It's very much more satisfying because I get a large original crafted object at the end of the day rather than just a digital file. And that's also a rarity these days. I would say 99% of the entertainment illustration out there is digital art. There's just a small crew of generally older artists that do traditional paint, and I'm happy to be one of them. Every year I try to go to a convention or so in the States, and there's some specific conventions that are only for original paintings, and there's museum shows and gallery shows, and there's a larger collector base developing, and the originals are being valued very highly these days. So financially it's great. Spiritually it's much more enjoyable than sitting in front of the computer, and it's sort of what I always wanted to do as a kid. So yeah, I'm pretty much working in oil paints as much as possible these days. But the work has to sit amongst digital paintings in the same product line. So even though I'm working in oils, I make sure it kind of looks like computer art. So I plan some of the colors out on the computer, and I make sure it has the same fidelity and feel that the rest of the illustrations have in the product line. I don't generally bring my originals to these sorts of conventions. They're very valuable.
Yeah.
You don't want them to get scratched or damaged. And the market really isn't here. The market is more at specific shows for serious collectors of that sort of stuff.
How did you get into art? Like, what was kind of like the catalyst that kind of started you into drawing? Was it just like basic doodling at school, or?
I sort of always was going to be an artist from an early age. Like, my parents were very supportive, so as a teenager in junior high, I was going to art camps. I was taking extra classes, on the weekends and stuff. And, by the time I was in high school, it was pretty obvious I was going to go to art school. So I just sort of pretty focused from an early age. The high school I went to in Edmonton, Harry Ainley, had a pretty advanced art program at that time. The school had its own gallery. I had a art special projects class, which is like an extra art class where you can sort of self-direct additional like art assignments. So I did art very seriously since I was like a teenager, through like parental support and some good teachers, and just the passion of comics and games and TV.
Nice. Out of all the collected works and the brands that you have brought art to, are there certain characters or brands that are far more popular that you get requests?
Well, I primarily just do work for the actual clients, so I don't generally do too many commissions for private people or anything. Everything I do is like published work for the company. So, they just email you, here's your assignment. They basically ask you if you have time. You say, yes, I have time. How many can you do? This is the deadline. Okay. And then they send you the assignment. They don't really ask you, do you want to do this character or that character? It's sort of like, sometimes you get better assignments, sometimes worse assignments. But since I'm generally working just for the, more popular franchises, they're all exciting, and I'm happy to do all of it. I'm happy when the artwork is used promotionally. Like, for instance, this one here is from the latest Hearthstone expansion, and Blizzard had a expensive marketing campaign where they had street art in the major cities all around the world. So they had some artists reproduce this image outside of the world's busiest train station in Tokyo.
Nice.
In like a 15-foot tall mural. This one here was on a billboard at the busiest intersection in Santiago, Chile. I've had other work on billboards in Los Angeles and the sides of buildings in Korea and whatnot. So that's really fun, when the client thinks your work is good enough to promote the game, or it's on a box, or it's used on the internet, where it's taken outside of like the specific game context and used in a very public way. That's always fun. So
nice. With the Hearthstone stuff, with it continuously bringing out new cards and so on and so forth, do you get complete freedom on poses, colors of the characters, or do they go like, okay, we've done this character this way, we want him this way for like a themed kind of deck?
Hearthstone has a lot more freedom than the past iterations of Warcraft that I've worked on. I used to work on the trading card game. Now with Hearthstone, they're going for a more fun, lighter, whimsical feel. And there's so many cards, and they want a lot of it to be a spin or a mashup or something that's fun. So they're not so concerned about you just showing the content exactly as it was in the video game. A lot of times they want you to do something goofy, and that's fine. Sometimes it's exactly like the models in the game, and that's fine. They just want you to enhance it, make it come to life, give it some believable realism and detail. So it sort of depends on the assignment. Like for instance, like this creature is pretty much as is in the video game, whereas this creature is not in the video game at all. There are some tentacle monster guys like this in Hearthstone or in Warcraft, but there's no pirate versions of them. So I made a pirate version. I made up a Cthulhu parrot. 90% of this is my thing, and as an artist, that's what they want from you, is they want you to run and add things that they didn't think of. So sometimes you're a pair of hands, but really your value is in understanding intuitively what they want and being able to give them more than they even asked for.
Nice. Yeah, now as I see the Cthulhu parrot, I want a plushie of him right now.
Well, apparently there was rumors of a plushie of my angry chicken, which is an iconic Hearthstone card.
Nice. Well, I thank you very much for the time. Thank you very much for the interview.
You're welcome.